Hello, wonderful scholars. Today we're going to go ahead and do our landscape in 1-point perspective. So remember, we need a ruler, we need an eraser and a pencil. And we're going to start off by drawing a horizon line. And the horizon line is going to go a little bit, like maybe a ½ inch or an inch over the center. For the sake of this lesson, we're going to do the vanishing point right in the middle. Then we're going to draw the road. So I'm going to go ahead and make 2 lines like this. And hopefully that is a flashback of when we did our elements of art zine and when we did the element of space. Remember, anything that is closer to you is going to be bigger, and anything that's far, far away, it's going to look smaller in your drawing. So just keep that in mind. And right now, here for the road, we're going to go ahead and we're going to add a sidewalk. So for the sidewalk, we're going to go ahead and just make another 2 lines. So just envision this is going to be your road and this is going to be your sidewalk. And remember last time I told you guys about focusing on either making smaller buildings or making taller buildings. And I'm going to show you guys the example that I've been showing you guys lately. And if you want to make a cityscape where you can see the floor, more ground, then your buildings are going to start with small little shapes. So a small square or a small round organic shape. So remember, the shapes that we're going to draw right now, those are going to be the side of the buildings. So for example, this little house right here, it's just the shape of a triangle and a square. And what we're going to do is we're going to connect them to the vanishing point. And notice how these two are smaller shapes, so you can see more of the ground. If you decide that you want to do larger shapes like this one, then there's going to be more overlapping within the buildings. So what I'm going to do next is on one side of the paper, I'm going to do the smaller buildings where you see most of the ground. And on the other side, I'm going to do the taller buildings where you just don't have as much on your sidewalk, or you will actually not have as much ground as on this side, okay? So first things first, I'm going to start with the square right here. And one thing that I want you guys to keep in mind is that anything that is on the bottom of this horizon line is going to be the ground. Anything that is on top of the horizon line is going to be the sky. And one thing that I want you guys to make sure is that when you're drawing your shapes, you need to make sure that the bottom of this shape is touching the ground. So it has to be under the horizon line. If you do something like this is going to look like this building is floating because it's on the sky. As soon as you make the shape, the bottom of the shape touch the ground, then it will look like it's grounded on the floor. So that's just one thing that I want you guys to keep in mind. Remember that your shapes, the bottom of the shapes, the lines, have to touch anywhere under the horizon line. So right here, I'm going to make sure that I have a lot of space on the ground. So I'm going to do smaller shapes on this side. And again, you do not have to do exactly what I'm doing. When we covered the lesson on Nearpod about 1-point perspectives, and I showed you guys the student examples, there's a lot of random, weird looking shapes that you can draw. You don't have to stick to these shapes. If you want to make a funky looking shape that looks like this would be a pretty cool building right here. Then that would be okay. And if you're like, nope, I want to stick to just squares and triangles and I don't know, whatever it is that you want to do, then that's fine. If you want to do a building like this, I'm pretty sure there's no such thing as a building like the one that I just did right now. But, you know, just in case. So I have my 4 shapes here because I'm going to have a little city that has, you know, funky looking homes or funky looking stores. And then on this side, I'm gonna go ahead and I'm going to draw taller buildings. So my buildings are gonna go, I'm gonna make sure that this shape is touching, the bottom of the shape is touching under the horizon line. And this is going to be a taller building. So remember, right now we're just drawing shapes because we're imagining this is going to be a smaller house, townhouse, small little deserted area. And this is gonna be kind of like LA, taller buildings. I'm gonna make a really, really tall building right here. Maybe leave a little bit more space. And on this one, it is okay if your rectangles overlap. So right here, what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna do another rectangle and I'm gonna make sure that this one overlaps. And they don't all have to be tall buildings. So I'm gonna make a small one right here. Or maybe I'm gonna make it just a little bit wider because we don't want it to be too small either. I did make a step-by-step guide. It's located on Nearpod and it's also located on Google Classroom. So you are welcome to look at that as well. So again, on this side, I'm gonna make a small little town where you could see more of the ground. And on this side, I'm going to make the taller buildings. First things first, remember, we're drawing the side of the buildings. How are they gonna look like from the side? So that's why we started off with these funky looking shapes and with these rectangles. So I know that this is going to be in front of this building. So I need to make sure that there's nothing, no lines inside of this shape. There should be no lines inside of this shape either. So you erase. So that's why I said that for this lesson, you need an eraser. Once you have this down, you're gonna connect the corners to the vanishing point. So corner 1, corner 2, corner 3. We're not connecting this corner or this corner because remember, we don't want any lines inside of our shapes. So if we connect it, there's gonna be a line and we don't want any lines. So we're only doing the corners where you will not be able to see the line going through your shapes. I'm gonna connect this corner, and this corner, this corner, and this corner. And this funky looking building is going to have a lot of corners. So we connect it to the vanishing point. And if you don't want to go all the way to the vanishing point, you don't have to, because then it's going to be more erasing. As long as your corner is connecting to the vanishing point, that's all that matters. Some students are like, Miss, my lines are going, they're starting to look like triangles, and that's okay. That's supposed to happen, because if that does not happen, then that shows, or that represents that you're not showing any depth. You see how my lines are getting closer to each other at the end? They're becoming closer right here on this side. I'm gonna do the square all the way just so that you can see what I'm referring to. So from corner to vanishing point, from corner to vanishing point. You see that? So all of my lines create kind of like a triangle right here. But I don't want to do that all the way to all my buildings. So I'm just going to do my buildings and my lines halfway. From corner to vanishing point, from corner to vanishing point, and then from corner to vanishing point. So then the next step is to close our buildings making parallel lines. If you want to make this, I'm going to make this into a store. If you want to make this store into a really, really long store, then you would end the line right here. But if you're like, no, I don't want my store to be that long, that big, then remember we have to close it a little bit more towards the front. And we go based off of this line. If this line right here is vertical, then this line has to be vertical. If this line right here is horizontal, then the line right here where the line ended, the first line, then right here, this has to be horizontal. And I do recommend that you use your ruler because I noticed that a lot of people, when they close the buildings, they just do a line like this, or they just close it like that. And that's incorrect because it has to be parallel to the original line. So if this is horizontal, this has to be horizontal as well. What do you do with the remaining lines? You erase them. So any extra line that you don't want that's going to get in the way, you erase them. Next one here. If this line is diagonal, we're gonna go ahead and put our rulers here, and we're gonna make a diagonal line right here. If this line is vertical, we're gonna put our rulers here, and right here where we ended, we're gonna close this line and make it vertical. You see that? This right here. If this line is vertical, then this line is going to be vertical. If this line is diagonal, we're gonna make this line diagonal. Right here, if this line is curved, then right here we have to have a curved line. Oh, that came out kind of funky. If this line is curved, this line has to be curved. And if this line is curved, then this line has to be curved. And right here, this is vertical, so this is vertical. What do I have to do with the extra lines? We just go ahead and we erase them. We no longer need those lines. And there we have 4 buildings. And of course, I try to vary with different shapes because you don't have to make them all squares and rectangles unless you really want to, then that's fine. But you're welcome to experiment and, you know, make whatever it is that you want to make. I'm going to do the same thing right here. I'm going to connect the corners to the vanishing point. From corner to the vanishing point. Right here from corner to vanishing point, from corner to vanishing point, and from corner to vanishing point. Notice how all of the shapes that are under the horizon line, the lines are going up. And this shape, since this corner is on top of the horizon line, it's gonna go down. So if your lines start looking like, why are they going all over the place? Just remember that it's okay. It's supposed to look like that. Now this one, I'm gonna go ahead and make my corners from corner to vanishing point, from corner to vanishing point. And this one's gonna be different. I know that in the past, I've told all of you to make sure that the lines don't go through the shapes or through the letters. But since these buildings have to look like they're overlapping, it's okay for the lines to go through. From this corner to the vanishing point. And of course, we can't even see this corner anymore because it's blocked by this building. So what I'm gonna do next, if this line is vertical, I have to go ahead and use my ruler, put it right here. If I wanna make it into a really long building, that I would close my line here, but I don't want it to be that long. So I'm gonna close it right here. So remember, if this is vertical right here, this has to be vertical. This right here, if this is vertical, then this has to be vertical. If this is horizontal, then this has to be horizontal. If this line is vertical right here, sorry about that. If this line is vertical right here, we put our rulers right there. And notice how this building is going to, it's actually gonna go in front of it. I'm gonna make the line. And you see that? That's okay. We're going to erase this later. If this is horizontal, we're gonna put our rulers right here. We're gonna bring our rulers up. And we're gonna make sure that this line is parallel to this line. And then this line is vertical, so I'm gonna get my ruler right here. I'm gonna move my ruler more here. And there you go. Now, I have to pay attention to what building is in front of what building. Pay attention to the bottom of the shape. You see the bottom of this shape? We know that this one is closer to us because it's closer to the end. So that means that this building is in the back. So what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna get my eraser and I'm going to erase anything inside of this building so that I can make it seem like it is in the front. Right here, I'm going to erase these extra lines because I don't need them. Right here, there's extra lines that I don't need. Right here, we don't want this horizon line inside of the building because if we don't want our buildings to look like they're made out of glass. And then right here, we don't need these extra lines. And we don't need this either right here. You see that? So now we have small little townhouses and little shops, whatever you want to make them, with a lot of space on the ground. And right here we have taller buildings. And I know that maybe you want to make more buildings. If you want to make them taller, if you want to make them wider, then all you have to do is make your original shapes either taller and wider or shorter and smaller, whatever it is that you want to make of your city. Remember, everyone's drawing is going to look different because some things maybe are going to be about Christmas, Halloween, the Grinch, good versus evil, before COVID and after COVID. So there's going to be a lot of different themes. So don't feel forced to do exactly the shapes that I have here. Go ahead and make your own shapes. And if you want to make all of them into rectangles or squares, that is totally fine. I do suggest that you go on Nearpod and that you look at the student examples that I shared with all of you. And you could get some ideas from there. So if you have any questions, just remember to contact me, email me, come to office hours, or just send me a message on Instagram, whatever works for you, and I will gladly assist you. So hand hug, you guys. I'll send you guys another video on the details of the windows, the doors, the benches, the signs, and so on. Okay? Hand hug. Have a good one.